unique awesome people. I decided to give you a driving video today because I just have a very busy schedule right now, and I wanted to make a video about breakups, and I just haven't had the time, and I don't want to forget. I've got some great feedback from some friends in my life, and I realized this is a missing link to my video gallery collage list. I don't know what you're calling it. I am still a YouTube rookie. So I want to talk about breakups because, you know, I have a lot of friends who I consider monogamous, and they go through breakups from long-term relationships, and I've been through that myself. And I just feel so bad for them, and I feel bad for myself, how long it took me to get over about a 6-year relationship. I was so devastated. I mean, to be honest with you, it still affects me today. It's really hard when you spend a lot of time with somebody and then they're just gone forever. It's a really sad, horrific thing. And I think as a culture, you know, we really need to rethink what that looks like, even for people who are monogamous. And I like that my channel kind of, you know, bleeds into monogamy as well, because, you know, it's all about relationships and love and people, and it's worth talking about all of the perspectives sometimes, not just one of ours, right? So the light I wanted to shine on this was, like, after I went through enough relationships in life, I finally was able to realize, you know, I'm not a monogamous person. I want to live an ethical, non-monogamous life. And in fact, polyamory is something that I completely identify with. Now, that's just for me, but I'm just going to share, you know, my experience here so you can interpret it for, you know, your own life and things that could be going on around you, or for people that you care about, right? Because that's what it is, you know, as humans, you know, we need to lift the people around us and have a sense of community and strength and courage within us and amongst all of us. I really feel that is a duty that we should all acknowledge and recognize. So I started to realize, you know, I don't want to be in monogamous relationships. They don't make me happy. You know, that being said, I didn't have a need to just go sleep around and party and be with anybody. That wasn't the case at all. I actually identified as I've gotten older and become very experienced. You know, I always like to shout out my industry. I've been stripping 23 years. That's taught me a lot about people. So my expectations have went up. You know, emotionally, I have a lot of expectations in order to identify any kind of sexual interest in somebody. That's just me. So, you know, I started realizing I need to start telling people, no, I'm not really into spontaneous, in the heat of the moment, you know, wild fun. That's fun, and I have had it plenty times, but it's just not what I'm looking for. I want something that I could always have, and that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, because it is so devastating when you break up with somebody and you never talk again. You know, whatever transpired to cause the breakup, maybe that person, you know, doesn't deserve your respect, but, like, do they not deserve your respect for the rest of your entire life? What about your family members and your friends who are interconnected, who you now have to sever with after having years and years of relationships with them? It's really, really uncomfortable. People get angry with family members for staying in touch with, you know, ex-lovers, and it's just really toxic and tangly, and it doesn't need to be, right? So I realized, you know, for me, I don't want to give my body to somebody who I don't have the potential of having a long-lasting relationship with until the day I die. Now, that could be in any context. It doesn't mean that, you know, we're going to live together and build our lives together. It could mean we live on the other side of the world and barely see each other, and, you know, don't necessarily even talk on the regular. Like, relationships could be all kinds of different dynamics. So I started really realizing, wow, this, you know, non-monogamy and polyamory really makes sense for me. I desire more than one love. I have the capacity to care for more than one person. And one of the perks that I believe comes along with that is that when you do have a breakup, you know, even if it's in the heat of, you know, some very upsetting stuff that makes you think, like, oh, I never want to talk to this person again. Sure, it's going to be heartbreaking because you're losing that person. Of course it's going to be. But it's not as devastating when you have a support net around you. It's not as devastating when you have the mind state that, well, maybe you will talk again at some point in life. You don't need to hate the person and totally terminate them from your life forever. You can revisit that relationship in any context, again, in the future, depending on, you know, what the elements were that you guys were struggling with. And I really believe that this is healthy way of looking at how people should be connecting with one another, you know? So if you were in a really deep connected relationship with somebody, like, who's to say you can't revisit that relationship? I'm just going to pull 5 years out of my butt right now, but it doesn't really matter. Just as an example, 5 years later, in a very different context, you know, not having that, you know, those expectations for one another and the joint lifestyle and the pressures that particular relationship caused for you. You know, and people do go back to relationships, like people in monogamous relationships break up with people, go back, and break up with people, go back and forth, you know, so you know what I'm talking about. But wouldn't it be nice if there was just an open dialogue to say, you know, you could just be one of the many people I love all my life, and I will take space when I feel unwell and things are, you know, are feeling toxic and not nourishing, and then we can revisit and explore the possibilities of where this long-term everlasting relationship could go, right? And I really believe that if people start thinking like this, that our society's relationships can become so much stronger, and who cares about the divorce rate being up and all these problems that we all recognize is happening with our North American culture right now, you know? We can just say, like, you know, marriage is for what marriage was designed for. You know, marriage doesn't need to be about, oh, you're my soulmate, I love you, you know, I'm going to stand by you forever. You know, you can have that with relationships without marriage. I think marriage is valuable when you decide you want to join finances, and there needs to be legal structures in place for what that looks like. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? If you're not joining your lifestyles together, then it's not really necessary, you know? And again, it puts a lot of added pressures on situations that appear to end up destroying relationships in the end. I'm sure we can all agree, reflecting on the masses, that this is something we all see, right? So this, again, it's not me trying to, you know, persuade people in monogamy to think about polyamory. I will just throw out there right now that polyamory is one of many branches, and there's many branches within polyamory, different forms of polyamory. So you may think you know what polyamory means, or it may mean something to you and mean something very different to somebody else. So keep in mind the interpretation of language and how crucial that is in making sure that you really know what you're deciding or how you're viewing somebody. But yeah, so ethical non-monogamy is the umbrella term for all these various different alternative relationships from monogamy. And I think it's really worth thinking about for people who have been, you know, considering themselves monogamous all their life, who are saying, hey, you know, yeah, things don't really feel good. I keep repeating the same upsetting experiences, you know, and maybe I'm feeling alone, or there's a lot of resentment and hate and anger for ex-partners who I once loved. You know, why not get rid of all that negativity and find a way to, you know, I believe be very fulfilled and happy as an individual. I really think it's important to work on that. And then to say, you know, where else can I branch out in my life, and with who is worth, you know, taking that chance with, to see if we have that synergy, and not doing it so quickly and so frivolously that, you know, you don't have the connection that, you know, you'd like to have, or that you thought you could have, because you were solely acting on impulse and lust. I mean, sure, that's fun, and maybe that works for you. I've got nothing against it. But for me, it's just like, I mean, I don't really want to find out, oh, this person doesn't really make sense for me, and da-da-da-da-da. I'd rather take my time and get to know people and know who they really are, not who they are presenting for me to see. We all know how that feels, right? And then by the time I, you know, explore something physical with somebody and romantic, then I know exactly what I'm getting into. It's a really nice, reassuring feeling. And then why do I want to take all that person's time and isolate them from other opportunities and people, and really lose sight of our own individual journeys in the world, to the point of eventually finding one another boring, because you run out of things to talk about. You know, you might not run out of things to do. I mean, depends how, you know, adventurous you guys are, but you know what I'm talking about when that flat line zone starts happening. And it's not because you're just out of the honeymoon phase, it's because you are spending too much time together and not identifying outside of the relationship as individuals, I believe. And this is all in my opinion and my experience. So I think it's really important to consider all these factors, because they can make breakups a lot less devastating. And again, like I said, it's always going to break your heart to, you know, disconnect from somebody that you love deeply. But who's to say say that that person has to be gone forever? Why do we need to banish them and ostracize them, or find new people immediately to soothe our broken hearts, and then flaunt new people in their faces, and just all this tacky behavior that our North American culture is, common for behaving like? I think it makes a lot more sense to know how to take personal time, know how to take space, grow, go through the pains and the journey independently, and then you really never know where your connection with these people, and I will say people because for me, I want to be surrounded by love, by multiple people, and I want to have that safety net that feels good, so that I'm never sitting there, crying, feeling all alone in despair, and feeling as if I have to start over again. Like, there's so many people, they're so infamous for coming back on Facebook every couple of years and being like, oh, I'm back, world, like, we broke up. Well, why did you have to run away from the world in order to be in love? That's not healthy. It's not. And that's what makes breakups so upsetting. And when we're devastated, we make very poor choices, and it affects our success and our lifestyles dramatically, right? So I think this is the end of my chat. I hope you don't mind the noisy highway. I'm on my way to trucking school. This is my last class before my third road test. Oh, it's painful. It has not been an easy journey, but you know what? I'm not a quitter. I'm going to go get it. So I'll let you guys know how that goes. Stay tuned. Test is on Wednesday. Have a great day.